Welcome to the podcast. You're listening to Spilling the Tea on Business. My name's Lucy Johnston, and today I am joined by the wonderful Katie Spreadbury. Katie, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me. And as I was just saying to you before we started, I'm really excited about having this conversation because I've been watching your podcast and learning lots more about what you do. And I would love for you to just start off by telling us a bit about what you do so people who haven't heard you before can get to know you a bit.
Of course, sure, yeah. So my name's Katie Spreadbury. My company's Orange Sheep Research, and I also host the Upside Up Marketing podcast. And basically, I help service-based online businesses to create offers that people actually want to buy. I find that helps. It's essentially coming at it from the angle of really understanding the people you want to work with and understanding what they want and what they need, not always the same thing, and how to communicate effectively with them so that you've got an offer that's so good, they're excited to buy it, and you don't need to use any of the sort of pushy, FOMO driven marketing tactics that make you feel a bit gross and put you off doing any marketing at all. So that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, we all know those icky tactics that just don't work and it's just not helpful. That sounds absolutely brilliant. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you sort of ended up getting to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So my entire career since even my student jobs were in market research. So finding out about how people behave, trying to measure and predict behavior and understand like why people do what they do essentially. And my degree was in psychology as well. So the two things very closely linked. So I've worked in research for over 20 years now. But when I had my children, I decided I didn't want to go back to agencies. I was working on like big government projects. There was a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, and I didn't want that sort of like stress and pressure in my life. So I decided to set up my own business. And I was like, I went to like a business startup course and learned all about it. And I was looking around going, oh, everyone in this room needs what I do. I was wondering how I was going to cope with the demand of all the clients. So off I came, I launched, hey, everyone, I do market research. Who wants some market research? Nothing. And I learned a very important lesson there straight away about understanding where your people were coming from, because I'd come from a world where all our clients knew they needed market research. They sent us a brief with exactly what they wanted. We proposed what they were going to do. They commissioned us and we did it. And in the online business world, market research wasn't really a thing. No one talked about it. And so no one really knew what it was or why they needed it. So I then had to I had to sort of become my own client and embark on a journey of understanding the people I wanted to work with, the people I wanted to help, what they were actually going for, what they wanted, what they needed. And I realized that the market research is just that's the logistics, that's the delivery mechanism. It's not what people are actually buying from me. People are buying the result, which is offers that actually sell, and like messaging and marketing and how to talk to their audiences. So when I flipped everything, that's when it all changed. And now that's what I help my clients do the same.
And I think that is just a brilliant introduction because you put the nail on the head there with, I've got this thing that I know how to do. I've got an offer that I know is going to help so many people. You're shouting in the room of going, I can help you. But if you're not using the language that they understand or the problem that they have, they're not going to realize you're for them and they're going to switch off and scroll off to somebody else. And I think that is what happens a lot. And it sounds like you've sort of built a brilliant business that is very much needed on helping people to do just that. So can you tell me a bit more about what you do with your clients?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's like I've got a podcast called the Upside Up Marketing Podcast.
Yeah.
And that's because I think most marketing is essentially done upside down. Like you were just saying, people have a service, a product, whatever. They take it out and shout about it and spend they take their service to market, and they spend all their marketing time trying to persuade people and convince them that it's what they need. And I think that's the upside down way of doing it. So I work with my clients to flip that, to understand what their people actually want and need. And like I say, they're not always the same. And I'll come on to more of that in a moment. But then create something that actually, essentially, when you tell people about it, they're already keen to buy it. And that means that whatever marketing tactics and techniques and whatever feel good to you, you can make them work because your messaging is strong enough that you've got people listening. So whether you like doing webinars, whether you like doing challenges, whether you prefer just to launch through your content, whether you don't launch at all and you just consistently talk about what you do, you can make any of the methods work because your messaging is so strong. Like I say, you've got people listening. I forgot what the original question was now.
So it is exactly what you do with the clients, and you sort of said through.
That was it. Yes. So when I work with people, we look at their audience, we look at their offer, we check whether there's even actually a match there, because a lot of people like they'll have an offer, but if their messaging isn't quite right, they might have attracted the wrong audience for it. So we check there's a match there. If there is, great. If not, we decide whether we want to tweak the offer or tweak the messaging and attract new people into the audience. And then once we know who that ideal client is, we really dive deep. We have conversations with them. We look at how they're behaving, what they're doing, what they're talking about, the language they're using, how it's actually impacting their lives, and use all this information to build a story, to build an offer, and to build the message around it.
That sounds fantastic, because it is that thing when you start talking about ideal client or foundations of what people need, there can be a tendency of, oh, that's kind of stuff you do at the start, when actually it's stuff that lots of people just skip over, and they just go, well, this is me, this is what I've got, and I'm going to sell it to people. Whereas actually you need to get to know who it is that you are actually trying to sell it to, what the issues they're having. And I think the language part is huge, because if you're then, so I'm a social media manager, and if I'm using marketing terms, and if you're using marketing terms like ROI and various other things, and if people don't understand what ROI, return on investment, is, then they're going to automatically switch off. And I think if you're trying to speak to those people, you need to definitely be speaking in their language. So you need to do this work so that you can understand what your ideal client, where they're coming from, who they are, and build, like you said, build an offer around them. And I think one of the things we spoke about before is, one of the main issues is why people don't buy your offer. So can you just, so for everybody who's around, if they've got offers out there, or if they're thinking about putting an offer out there, you, in your business and your expertise, what is the biggest reason why people don't buy somebody's offer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I work with and speak to a lot of people who, they're putting content out, they're getting a great reaction, and then when they put the offer out, they get nothing. Crickets, tumbleweed, and it can be very frustrating. And I think the number one reason people that you're perfect people, and by this I mean the people that they've got the problem, they want the result, and they're ready to invest and do something about it. So I'm not talking about the people that just need to believe in themselves a bit more and invest in themselves and things like that. I'm talking about people that are ready. They might still overlook you. And one of the main reasons for that is relevance. They don't see that what you've got is exactly relevant to their situation. It's no good talking about your offer and sort of, it's when people talk about the offers and they try and hedge their bets. This could be happening for you, or this, or this, or this. Every or this dilutes the message further and makes the person think, oh, I'm not so sure now. I was looking for some running coaching. I love running a long way, but I'm not getting any younger. So I was like, I need some help with this so I don't destroy myself while I do it. And I was looking at running coaches. I've been running a long time, and I was following one, and they had a program, and I was like, oh, this looks really interesting. But then when I clicked on it, it talked about that, but then it talked about stuff from a very beginner point of view as well. And I was like, I've been running for 20 years. I don't really need this beginner stuff. So I moved on, and, I bought something else. So it's about not diluting the message, being really specific to the people that you want to work with. And it's about, and when I say being specific, I guess what I'm saying is you need to look at the problem from their point of view. So the example I like to use is of, say, a confidence coach who wants to help business owners get over their fear of visibility and their anxiety so they can show up more powerfully and consistently on social media. But if that client or that potential client is sitting there at home, and every single day they have posts on social media on their list, and they sort of go through their day, and it's always the thing that falls off the bottom of their list, and they're looking for time management solutions because they think, I'm procrastinating, I've got too much to do, I need to find a better way to manage my time. all that amazing stuff you have about dealing with anxiety and things like that is just going to get scrolled past. It's going to be ignored. They're not going to realize it's for them. So it's really, really important to meet the client where they're at. In this example, it might be the biggest cause of why you're procrastinating on your social media, or the number one reason you never get around to posting on social media. And they're like, oh, that's what I need to know. Yeah, this is going to be some great time management thing. But then presenting the argument once they're reading that procrastination is caused by anxiety, and then here's what you can do to get over it, etc., etc. Taking them on that journey, not necessarily one post, but over the course of the nurture of the potential client, that's going to land a lot better than things that they don't even realize in the first instance are for them. So it's about that relevance and specificity to so they got to know as soon as they look at it that this is going to help them specifically with their problem.
Yeah, it grabs them with the issue that they've got right in front of their face. And then once you go into it, you can then start to see, well, actually, give this a try. And they give that a try, and it kind of helps 2%. It helps them feel a bit better. And then through a nurture sequence of, oh, actually, that helped. So I'm going to listen in. I'm going to lean in a little bit more. And then as they continue to lean in, you're answering more of their problems or giving them more tips. And it's helping them. So they're then warm to actually recognize that, hang on, it might not have actually been the time that was the issue. It might have been that the anxiety was the issue, and these things have really helped me. So I want to learn more from Katie. I want to learn more and find out more how I can go through this journey with her. So that sounds absolutely brilliant. So relevance. So if your offer is not going anywhere, or if you've got an offer out that you're just getting crickets, have a look at the relevance and have a look at the I can't even say that word. Specificity to then see if it's actually for your ideal client, or if you're just putting it out there. So on the market research questions, how do people who've never done it before, how do they get started with, I kind of know who the people are that I want to be helping with. Can you take us through a couple of steps that they can sort of take to start to do a bit more market research? Or maybe they are doing some of it, but actually it's just sort of a question here, question there. Make it more scientifically based and evidence based. Some of the steps that they can take.
So with market research, the really, really important thing to remember is people don't know why they do what they do, and people don't know what they're going to do in future.
I love that. That's brilliant.
I mean, it's just, unfortunately, our lives would be a lot easier if that was true. If you could just say to people, if I put out this offer, would you buy it?
Yeah.
And they say yes or no. And then they actually did. I wouldn't even have a job. Unfortunately, that is not how people behave. People are very bad at understanding their own mind. And so it's very hard to ask people questions and get straight answers. And also, people are generally lovely. So if you put out something and say, oh, I'm thinking about this, does that sound interesting? No one's going to say no. So we have to be a little bit more savvy with how we ask the questions. And it is more about understanding what is going on for them and how that's impacting them. And, getting a really good picture of what their day-to-day life looks like, and how what you help them with shows up for them throughout their day. So the questions are a little bit more roundabout, a little bit more sort of just digging into the background and what's going on for them and what their thought process is. And then you use that to extrapolate how your skills and your services can solve that problem for them. So you're not asking them, I see a lot of people think they do their market research, putting out a question saying, if I did a coaching program to help you with this, would you want it to be 6 weeks or 12 weeks? How many sessions would you expect? People just don't know that. You're the expert. You have to be the one that's going to decide how you can help them. But you're going to better be able to you're going to be in the best position to do that when you really understand what's going on for them. So so the first thing is, forget your direct questions. Forget does this sound interesting? Do you like the sound of this? And start digging around as to what's going on with them right now. So, I mean, a classic question is what's annoying you most about having to do whatever it is you help them with, like say running your business or doing your marketing or something like that right now. That's quite a broad question. Or you can get really specific. And a question that I really, really like, and I encourage everyone to go out and ask their audience today, post it on social media, ask your audience, see what you get, it's the either or questions. So think of something that you help them with and ask them if they would rather. So I'll give you an example. It's easier to explain this in an example. I asked a question on mine once. Would you rather a magic fairy to come and write all your content for you, or a luxury holiday to Hawaii? So, to go for the content fairy, they've got to give up something quite big there.
Yeah.
And so would you rather, or for some things it works better the other way around, flip it to be more negative. Would you rather do a Facebook Live or stick pins in your eyes? It's surprising how many people go for the pins.
Wow.
And then when you start getting the responses, you can dig a bit deeper. Why is that? What is it you don't like about it? Or what is it you do like about it? And that's where you can start to build a bit of an understanding. Very simply, how long does it take to put a question on Facebook? Like 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Or it depends how long you take picking the background colour. I take quite a long time picking the background colour. In theory, about 10 seconds to type that and put it up there. So, and then, you can start getting that feedback straight away.
I like that. And you sort of said already, you're talking to your ideal clients. So usually there's something that you might know. If you're already working with clients, you might know some of the questions, you might know some of the areas that they struggle with, or you might have an inkling that might be something that they struggle with. And you can put that out there and ask them, whether in polls or just general questions if you've got a group, or just in Facebook groups that you're in. If you're in a community with people who are your ideal clients, then asking people in there if you've got a rough idea of what some of the issues are, you can start to put those questions out. And sometimes it's really enlightening that actually you've got the questions completely wrong, or you've got the thing that you think that they're struggling with is completely wrong. Because I think sometimes when we're in our businesses, we know our businesses inside and out. We know our offers inside and out. We know our jargon, our all the stuff from our point of view. So we might guess, oh, I think that might be the issue, but actually for them, they might be, if we're the expert in the field and they're very much just starting, actually for me as a social media manager, it might be that, oh, I don't even know the buttons on an Instagram Live. I don't mind speaking on camera, but the buttons just confuse me, so I don't do it. So it might be something that completely surprises you, that it just like, oh, okay, well, okay, here's a quick reel on how to go on a live, and you might be solving their problem there and then. And I think though it's really, really easy for us to forget that we don't know our ideal clients. Just because we know how we can help them, we don't know them.
That's absolutely, you make a really good point there. Yeah. When you're doing this, you really have to do everything you can to clear your mind of any preconceptions that you have and go into it with a completely open mind. Because like you say, something can just completely blindside you. It might be something completely different, or someone might raise something that so our minds, it's called confirmation bias. Our minds are geared up to hear what we want to hear, essentially. Anything that affirms our current views, we are going to pay more attention to than anything that challenges them. And this is a really important thing to remember when you're going out there and trying to find out more about your ideal clients, is to keep that open mind and look for the things you're not expecting. Because otherwise, anything they say that confirms what you already think about them, you're going to go, oh, yeah. And it's just going to reinforce it. And it might take you off down completely the wrong path. And a lot of people I work with, actually, they say, look, I've been talking to people, I've been trying to do this research, but I'm just too close to it. I can't see the wood for the trees. And that's why it can be sometimes nice to either get some support or just get another business owner to bat some ideas around with, and get that external view on it, because we are too close to our businesses. I even have I have to get help from other people to help me with my messaging, because I'm too close to it. And it's what I do for other people, but I have to bring in support to help me with my own, because when you're that close to it, it's very hard. It's like you can know too much, and once you know too much, it's very hard to put yourself back in the position of someone who doesn't know that much about it at all. So yeah, that's a really good point you make there.
I completely agree with you, because I have the same thing. I help people with their social media, their messaging, and then when it's yourself, it's really, really hard. So it's you've made some brilliant points, and I'm like, right, okay, I need to learn this as well. I need to do some more of this. So the first thing with then we'll jump from the fourth thing we talked about, put it to the first. First thing is clear your mind of your knowledge and your preconceptions of what people might think about your offer. The second thing is to speak to your ideal clients, or ask them in Facebook posts, and start to kind of go deeper as to what things they might be struggling with. Collecting that data, is that the next step of, putting all of that together? Is that the next step? Yeah.
So there's a few ways you can sort of gather information from people. One is just looking, if they're the sort of, if you work in an industry where people are out there and talking about what you do and the problems they have online,
Yeah.
obviously you could do some, we call it social listening, but stalking, spying, whatever. You could just read their they're putting out in the public domain, so it's not anything shifty, but it just sounds a bit shifty, like we'll go and read all their posts.
But like you said,
You
it's
can
the
see
social
what they're talking
listening.
about.
Yeah, it's the social listening, and it
Yeah,
is the, if somebody's put something, a question, and they're your ideal client, you can see that question. You're like, oh, that's what people are asking for. So then you can note that
absolutely.
down. Like we said before, we're too close, so we need to see what people are asking so that we can help them in a way that they will understand. So yeah, I like social listening.
That's
Social
it.
listening over
That's it.
stalking.
Yeah. And it's almost the purest way, because it's not prompted by you at all. It is what they have spontaneously come up with and put out there. But that's like probably sort of the lightest touch one from a business owner's perspective. Next level up is asking questions to your own social following, whether that's on Facebook, on Instagram, inviting comments on your videos, putting out emails with either survey blocks in them or just asking people to respond, anything like that. And you can send out surveys, but again, that's a whole different thing in itself. I've lost count of how many people who've asked me to fill in a quick survey, and I've opened it and it's 10 questions that require me to type in blocks of text, and I'm like, this is like an hour's work. So
Yeah, too
that's a
much.
whole different thing. I tend not to use surveys with people because I
Make
think
it
they're
easy.
too
Make it
hard to
easy.
make useful at this sort of scale.
Yeah.
And and the final one that I recommend that people get into a habit of just doing is just having coffee chats with people and just asking them how things are going, what are they struggling with, what have they got going on, what's working for them, what's not working for them, and just generally getting that sort of deeper feel in conversation of what's going on. So if you go to networking, you can just do this with fellow people in networking if they're your ideal clients, if you network with people who are your ideal clients. If you have a social following, you can just invite people, does anyone want 20 minutes, I just love to ask you some questions and to do some research. Some people will just do that because they want to talk about it, and they're passionate about what they do and they like you and they want to talk about it. But if you feel a bit funny about asking people for their time, you can then say, okay, then we'll spend the next 20 minutes or so, I'll answer your questions, or you can give something back, or you can send them one of your digital downloads or something. I don't know, you can give them a little something to say thank you. But yeah, I recommend that everyone gets into the habit of at least every few months having some actual conversations with people who would be their ideal client. Because you mentioned earlier, like, people often think this is something like one and done. You do it at the beginning of your business, then you never have to revisit it. But the world is changing. The boy, is the world changing.
Yes.
I can't think of a year over the last 5 years there hasn't been some massive change just on a worldwide level. But
Yeah.
that the market changes, people
People's.
change, you'll change yourself, and what you're interested in delivering might evolve. You might start off working with people at the beginning of their journey, but then as you evolve through your business, you evolve through to people that are further, and your audience might grow with you, or you might stay in that beginning of the journey thing and have to keep finding more people. That's for you to decide. But either way, the market will be changing. So get into a habit of regularly having these sort of coffee catch-ups with people, and making sure that you sort of got your ear to the ground basically as to what's going on, and so you can sense changes and tweak your messaging accordingly.
Yeah. That sounds brilliant, because yes, everything is changing all the time and we need to keep up with it. The marketing changes, customer journeys change, and everything. People get more savvy with, this is the offers and the amount of offers they're out there. You need to make sure that they know that your offer is for them. So we've done the market research, we've spoken to people, we've kind of got a good idea that what we've got is going to be able to help them. And where do we go? What's the next step after that?
It's a case of a lot of the way I like to do it, a lot of post-it notes, a big sheet of paper,
Yep.
and lots of different colour pens. And anything that talks about the problems they have, I write down and put in one place. Some people like to do this electronically, but I like to have a big bit of paper with lots of colour pens.
So do
Like,
I.
one corner of it is everything.
Yeah.
It's just very satisfying, isn't it? One corner of the board is like everything that talks about their problems, everything that talks about their goals, everything that talks about barriers they might feel they have to solving that problem, because that's another huge thing you're going to have to overcome in your offers. If people think, I'm not going to be able to do this because I just don't have enough time. To go back to a fitness example, if you're targeting like working mums who, you know, sort of drop the kids at school, work all day, then they have the kids back, you know, giving them a program where they have to go to the gym for 90 minutes a day is not going to help. But giving them a program where there's like daily 15-minute workouts, well, they might be able to fit that in. So understanding why they think they're not going to be able to do the thing and how you can overcome that. And yeah, sort of understanding all of that, writing down sort of what's underneath it, but sort of quotes and bits of language and things like that as well. Then when you are filling in, well, when you're creating your sales page, I mean, there's very popular resources out there, sort of templates for social media, for sales pages, for anything like that. I mean, they're great if you know what goes in the blanks. And
Yes.
this is what goes in the blanks. Amongst all this information, this is where you can find what goes in the blanks. I have played a little bit with, because I know this is going to be where AI can massively help this sort of ideal client research side of things. I've played with it quite a bit. I've never found an AI that is any good at actually, I haven't found anything that even slightly compares to actually going out and talking to people, because
Yes.
ultimately it pretty much feeds back what you put in. So if you've misunderstood why they're having their problem, it will just feed that back to you, but in a very convincing way, and it can again lead you up the wrong path. But in terms of like analyzing it and getting all your conversations, like putting them into AI and asking it questions, it is getting better, and I'm playing with that a lot because I think there's a lot of potential in that. So watch this space on that. But
Very interesting. We'll be getting
yeah,
you back on the
having it.
podcast later on for
Yeah,
the AI prompts and things, because it definitely
yeah,
is that. Yes, if you put it's related to the prompts that you put in. It can only work on the prompts you got in, and if you've got the wrong information going in, like you said, it's just gonna spit that back to you. So yes, we'll be seeing
yeah,
Katie again.
absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of scope for helping you take all that information though that you get from your research and putting it into something useful and coherent, which will really speed up the process. But like at the moment, like I say, sticky notes and colour pens is like the way I do it. And it feels
So
very quaint and old fashioned now, doesn't it? But it works. So
I'm very visual as well, so having a piece of paper with all of that in there. I know you can do whiteboards
yeah,
and things on the computer, but I like to have that as well. And that, like
yeah,
you said, so you've got their pain points, you've got where they're at the moment, you've got the language, you've got barriers for them, because this isn't just you're overcoming objections. These are actual barriers that they have to
mm,
attend. Like you said, with the working mums, having a 15-minute workout they can do at home is much more feasible for them than going to the gym for 90 minutes every day. And
yeah,
working out how you can help them in the best way that suits them is the best way for them and for you to help them get the results that they want. So
that's it. Yeah,
we've got the market research, we've spoken to the people, we've spoken to our ideal clients, we've got it all out on the paper. And now we're looking at our sales page. Have you got so somebody, if they've got their sales page and they're like, right, I just want to make sure I'm doing this through the lens that Katie's told me.
mm,
Have you got any sort of tips, very brief tips, because I know this is another big
yeah.
topic. So any brief tips for them just to go through, looking through this filter of making sure it's from an ideal client's perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, just going through the sales page, making sure that it's specific.
Yep.
They're going to see it's relevant. So we're not saying, "Oh, are you overwhelmed?" We're showing them what overwhelmed looks like. There's a saying, isn't there, in a creative writing: "Show, don't tell." So
Yes.
what does being overwhelmed look like? What does it look like if you don't have clarity? What does it look like to be empowered? All these words that come up, but they're not really gonna, because they're not the way people speak about things generally themselves. They're not gonna have that connection. So go through it. Is it from their point of view? Is it the words they would use? Can you imagine your ideal client saying this to you? Can you imagine them saying these words? Because if you can't, if that's not what they would use, you need to find new words. And all the way through, just questioning it from their point of view. Is this what I want to tell them, or is this what they want to hear? And even the way you position it. So when you're talking about yourself, rather than saying I'm this, I'm that, position it as in what do they actually need to know about you? How can you help them? And all the way through, just looking at it as if you were the ideal client, and really making sure that everything in there speaks directly to them in the words that they will use and understand, because that's sort of, you want to be sort of joining in that monologue in their mind rather than trying to disrupt them and pull them out of it, and use words that they have to think about. They might know what it means, but it's not the word they would use, so they just have to think about it for that split second longer. You want to be just joining in with that conversation in their head, so that gets them really nodding along, and really it demonstrates to them it's communicating clearly. It's all about communicating clearly and demonstrating to them that you get them, you understand them, and that they're safe in your hands because you know what it's like to be them, and you've got everything that they need to support them to get that result.
That sounds brilliant. That's like, yeah, they're talking with them, not just talking at them. So just making those small tweaks, because sometimes it is just small tweaks, like you said. It's the language that we use. It's the helping them see that they're part of the story we're talking about, and it's not just we're shouting and they're going, is this for me? Or you're kind of saying some words, but any kind of confusion or distraction is then gone. So it's really being hyper focused on your sales pages to make sure that you're bringing people into the story. That is all absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Katie, because I think we've talked through from the beginning to the end of where we need to work on our offers. At the end of my podcast, what I like to do is just to help people with 3 actions from the conversation that we've had for them to go away with and take that action immediately. And we want to help people to, not just sit and listen to podcasts. We want them to actually take some action. So can you tell us 3 or up to 3 actions that they can go away with today?
Yes, absolutely. And I love that because it is all about taking action, isn't it? We've touched on all of them, but I will summarize them here. So number 1 is to go out and put a post on your socials today asking, would you rather have the result you deliver or go on a luxury holiday to Hawaii? Or flip it round, would you rather do the thing they hate doing but they think they need to do to get the result, or stick pins in your eyes? So choose whichever one of them works best with what it is you do, and engage with the answers and see what information you can find out there. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'd love to challenge listeners to book in some coffee chats with some of their audience. So put a post out inviting people to join you just for 20 minutes, half an hour, just on Zoom or whatever, over a coffee, and just have a chat with them about what's going on for them in their lives, and sort of how these problems are presenting themselves, and start to get that deeper understanding of really what's going on and the words they're using and the way they're thinking about it. And the third one is to whether or not you do the first 2, take a look at your sales page and just think to yourself, really, really be harsh on yourself, really critically look at it and say, is this described from my ideal client's point of view, or is this me standing on a pedestal telling them what I think they need to hear? So is this what they actually need to hear, or is this what I think they need to hear? And really, really think about that and be quite harsh on yourself and see if there's any tweaks you can make, because you might find even just that is enough to really start engaging people and getting more inquiries and sales.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And I think definitely, so those 3 are a question or the polls to your audience. And if you want to tag us in, then Katie and I can see that you're doing this, because we would love to see that you're taking action to book the coffee chats and get those conversations started, and to have a look at your sales page and get that tweaked. Those 3 are absolutely brilliant actions. So thank you very much, Katie. And finally, where can people come and find you? Where are you most across the internet? Where can they kind of follow up with you?
So I have my own podcast. It's called the Upside Up Marketing Podcast, and that's probably the best way to find me. It's both on YouTube because it's a video podcast, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm also going to have a Facebook group, the Upside Up Marketing Movement, and that's probably where I'm most active. But I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So I'll share all the links.
Brilliant.
And I've actually got a free resource, if I might share it.
Yes, please do.
If people want to, if you've got an offer or you're about to launch an offer then I've got a resource called the 3 techniques to validate your offer before you launch it. Although it does actually work if you've already launched it and it's just not selling as well as you hoped. That can help you find where the gaps are as well. And I'll also send you the link, Lucy, to for people to download that if they want to.
Brilliant. Thank you. I will put all of the links in the show notes so people can come and find you, and that offer, because I think that guide, because I think that's a brilliant thing for people to be testing out their offers. So thank you very much, Katie. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Thank you so much for having me.